Hi, and thanks for watching my channel. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit the like button and come back for information that is designed to help you as the viewer. I'm going to tell you my experience with Frontier Airlines, which is billed as a discount airline and is very popular on many routes around the country. But here's the experience that I had, and I would have to tell you that for the most part, especially with my recent experience with their customer service, or lack thereof, that it was not the greatest experience. The first time I flew Frontier a couple years ago, my initial impression was, wow, you're really giving up a lot. That time, I didn't know that you really had to invest in all the different extras because they really kind of nickel and dime you to death. Everything is piecemeal. So that first flight, I didn't know to upgrade seats or anything else, and ended up in the back of the airline with seats like most of the seats that don't tilt back, and a little tiny fold-down tray that just barely would fit my tablet. But you certainly couldn't have your tablet and a snack or a drink or anything else on it. But that probably doesn't matter, because on Frontier, unless you pay extra, you're not going to have a snack or a drink. I mean, literally, you're not going to have a snack or a drink. If you are used to having one of those little bags of pretzels or whatever they give you on many airlines, and maybe a soft drink or apple juice or something, forget it. You're going to pay extra. That's how it works. Everything is piecemeal. When you see those great prices and you're comparing prices between Frontier and different airlines, what you're really looking at is just the airfare. And when I say just the airfare, I mean just the airfare. When you add to that the cost of better seats and a full-size fold-down table in front of you to actually have some room, and then you add the price of snacks, you add the price of a carry-on item, if you're checking something, the price of checking something, and even a little bit more for a seat that actually tilts back, then you add it all up and compare that with the price you get from another major carrier. Then you're comparing apples to apples. But it's pretty hard to do until you add things up. Now, on this last trip that I just took, it was for one of the worst possible reasons. I had to go to the funeral for the death of one of my parents, and because of that, it was kind of last minute arrangements, and I was kind of rushing because there's a big difference even if you have to make reservations 5 or 6 or 7 days ahead versus trying to make reservations just 1 or 2 or 3 days ahead, where there may not even be any seats available on the route you're taking, and the price is just insane when you're just a few days out. But that's what happened to me. So when I was making the reservations, I was kind of rushing through the reservation, and I'm very used to always having at least a carry-on item to store in the overhead. And in this case, I was only traveling, basically, my son and I, for 24 hours. We were going from a Friday evening to a Saturday evening. And so in this case, I just didn't need a carry-on, but of course we needed to have a check bag, because when you're going to a funeral, in this case we needed a couple suits and a couple of dress shirts and a couple pairs of dress shoes and ties and everything else. So for that reason, I wanted to make sure I got a direct flight going from the Southwest to the Midwest, and a direct flight coming back, so none of that stuff in the check bag was lost, or at least there was less chance of it getting lost when there aren't different legs in the trip. So what I did is I flew from the Southwest out to the Midwest on American Airlines, and then the return trip was on Frontier this time. Last month, or the month before, I actually flew Frontier in both directions for a similar trip. So my experience was that flying American, the seat was very comfortable. My seat would tilt back. I had a regular full-size tray. They served a snack and a drink on the trip going out there. As I remember, the flight was on time, and it was a good flight. Now, the overall cost, and I'm going to put up some of the numbers for you to see in just a moment here, but the overall cost, when you factor in the extra I paid American Airlines at check-in for my check bag, probably came out to maybe $40 or $50 more than the cost for Frontier. And this was going to be for 2 people. With Frontier, I still had to pay for upgraded seats, and I actually paid for seats that were near the front of the airline, and I thought for sure that, considering I paid quite a lot more, that they would be seats that would tilt back. Because one thing about Frontier seats is they are not very comfortable. So at the very least, you'd like seats that tilt back, and it was a flight that was at nighttime, so it would have been nice to tilt back and actually be able to maybe get a little sleep on the trip back. But that didn't happen, because the seats did not tilt back, even though I paid extra. So the only benefit was they were close to the front of the airline, but they were still very uncomfortable. The seats on American Airlines were much more comfortable, really no comparison. And at least this time I got a full-size, full-down tray, but it didn't really matter because we didn't get any kind of snack. Luckily we brought something with us. Had we got seats that tilt back and got a snack, probably would have cost maybe another $30 each for me and my son. So, what is my overall view of Frontier Airlines? Well, if it was just based on that experience, I would say that it's not very good. But if I had to, based on the route and my schedule at the time, I might consider them again. But here's the clincher. Had rushed through the reservation portion of booking my reservation just so I got it done quickly to try to save money and have it done and out of the way, because it was just, I think, 5 days before the actual funeral. And because it's habit to always take a carry-on item, which I didn't do this time, I checked carry-on as one, not one for me and my son, but just one for me. One thing I learned on Frontier's website is once you do that and you go through to the point where you are paying, you're stuck. There is no taking that back. And they charge an extra $28. So, right after I realized I did that, I tried calling Frontier's customer service number to tell them I had made the mistake. I was under not very normal conditions, kind of under duress to a degree. And I was going to ask them to just please remove that charge and contact my credit card company and just remove that $28. I waited on hold for an hour and I finally gave up. I hung up. I called them back a little later. I was on hold for a half an hour waiting. I gave up. I figured I'll talk to somebody in person on the return trip at the ticket counter, which is what I did. So I talked to the ticket agent. He conferred with his manager, and they said, we've got the notes in the system. We see you don't have a carry-on bag, and you should be all set. Just call customer service and or contact customer service, call or write, and everything should be fine. They'll see the notes and know that you didn't have a carry-on. So I had written to them once before the trip and nothing happened. So when I got back, one of the first things I did was I wrote to them again. I explained the whole situation, said I was going to a parent's funeral. It was plans that had to be made quickly. And the guy wrote back to me and said, well, we're sorry for your circumstances, but we will not refund your $28. Now, can you believe that? What other airlines wouldn't take a simple step, especially with the notes from the ticket agent that was there, who actually saw me that I had no carry-on item, and still refused to help someone out? When I was in management in financial services, we called it a customer service gesture. We would help out the customer, and especially in a situation like this where it's just $28, we'd be more than happy to help that person, especially if they explained the situation and they were going to one of their parents' funerals. I mean, what else does someone need? So I wrote back to Frontier, and it made no difference. They absolutely refused to credit back my credit card with the $28. I will not fly Frontier again. That's all I can say. I mean, now when you factor in the uncomfortable seats, lack of a snack without paying extra, lack of a tilting reclining seat without paying even more extra, and just that kind of customer service, forget it. They have lost a customer. When I figure that I may have paid $40 or $50 for the exact same route on American Airlines and had a much more comfortable trip, that's just the way I see it now. If saving money is your main goal, and that extra $40 or $50 is that meaningful, then by all means, take your chances. But I'm just telling you, that was my experience. That's my review of Frontier Airlines, and I will not be a customer from this point going forward. If this information was useful to you, please like this video, subscribe. This channel is all about bringing useful information that you can use.